Well, some of Labor's safer seats will be targeted by a new political movement in next year's federal election. Islamic community groups like the Muslim Vote have voiced desires to run independent candidates in key seats. Their main selling point is changing the way the government handles the war in Gaza. There are suggestions expelled Senator Fatima Payman may jump on board. They're being hailed as the Muslim Teals.
Yeah, well, an update to that story, which is fascinating. So now the Sydney Morning Herald is reporting that Fatima Payman, or that group, is working with Glenn Drury. Do you remember him? So he was the so-called preference whisperer. Who did a lot of the deals in the Senate. Right. Remember that election where we got a lot of micro-parties?
It was an exciting time.
The motoring enthusiast party, all that sort of thing coming in. So if they're starting to work with him, then that suggests they're very serious about how this might work. I don't know if they'd pull it off because the laws in the Senate have actually changed since to make it harder for that sort of thing to happen.
But the Teals took quite a few votes from the Libs. This is not the intention this time, is it?
No, this is a very different thing. So that's all different for two reasons. One is that... The other is that's in the lower house, right? So that's in seats. And the Teals were able to do that because, of course, Labor and the Greens basically got out of the way and just said, yeah, go for it. You can topple the Liberal Party. And to try to pull that off here would require everyone else, the Libs, the Greens, whatever, to get out of the way. I'm not sure I can see, especially the Greens, doing that. And then you have a situation where you've got the Greens up against these independents, maybe. Yeah. Do they just cannibalise the vote? There's a lot to work out here. But the other thing that's interesting is there's more than one thing going on. So this seems to be happening, the Muslim Vote thing. Yeah. There's also this thing called Muslim Votes Matter, and what they're doing is they're targeting... So what that bar at the bottom is, it tells you what percentage of the electorate is Muslim, and the bar at the top tells you how big the margin of victory is. So, as you see, they've targeted a whole bunch of seats, and you can scroll through them if you like, basically showing where the amount of Muslims in the electorate is bigger than the margin, the theory being you should be able to flip that seat if you vote as a bloc. Wow. But it's very complicated because it all depends on who comes second, what happens with their preferences, how many Muslims voted for Labor as opposed to the Lib. It is extremely complicated, but it's a really fascinating development and it's very Sydney. So at the next election, I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I can tell you if anything's going to happen, it's Western Sydney. Tony Burke, Jason Clare have every reason to be paying attention to this. Yeah.
Wow.